Neoma worked hard to prepare a warm Thanksgiving dinner, filling the house with the smell of roasted food and laughter. She loved having her family together, and everyone admired the way she kept everything in order. Her husband, Chikwudi, sat proudly at the table, speaking with relatives who respected him for his good name and calm presence. Their little girl, Amara, only 6 years old, ran around the living room, bringing smiles with her innocent giggles. She was the joy of the gathering, and all the guests adored her. As plates were filled and conversations flowed, a sudden silence fell when Amara's small voice trembled through the room. "Mummy, it hurts to sit," she said, almost whispering. Every fork froze in midair. The laughter stopped. Faces turned to her in shock. Neoma's heart dropped, her mind racing with fear. She rushed to her daughter's side, kneeling close, her voice soft but urgent as she asked what she meant. Amara's eyes filled with tears, but she couldn't explain. The tension in the room grew so heavy that no one could breathe easily. Chikwudi quickly cut in, his voice harsh and sharp. He dismissed the words, saying Amara was just trying to get attention. But his nervous tone, too forceful and defensive, made relatives exchange uncertain looks. Neoma felt a storm rising in her chest. Later, away from the table, she gently pressed her daughter again, promising safety. This time Amara whispered something that froze her mother's blood. She spoke of Uncle Emeka, and a secret game she was told never to share. Neoma's world shattered in that instant. She marched back to the table, her face fierce, her voice unshaking as she demanded the truth. Emeka tried to deny it, but Amara, in her innocent voice, revealed everything. Gasps broke across the room, arguments followed, and chaos erupted. Some relatives begged Neoma to stop, saying she was shaming the family. Others supported her, reminding everyone that a child's safety mattered more than pride. Neoma clutched Amara, refusing to stay silent. But her deepest wound came when Chikwudi chose his brother, shouting that she was destroying the family's honor. With tears and fury, she walked out, holding her daughter tightly. Soon, with her cousin Ifeanyi's legal help, she began a battle for justice. Months later, Emeka faced punishment, and Chikwudi, disgraced and alone, begged for forgiveness. At another family gathering, Neoma arrived strong, with Amara smiling by her side. She stood tall, her words echoing through the room. "I will never apologize for protecting my child." And this time, everyone applauded. As the chatter filled the room and laughter bounced off the walls, Amara's soft trembling voice cut through everything. She looked at her mother and whispered, "Mummy, it hurts to sit." The words hung heavy in the air, turning joy into silence. Every fork stopped in midair, every eye turned toward the little girl. The cheerful noise vanished, replaced by stunned faces and sharp breaths of disbelief. Neoma's heart raced as fear gripped her chest. She pushed back her chair and hurried to her daughter's side, crouching low, trying to understand what those words meant. "What do you mean, my baby?" she asked gently, her hands trembling as they touched Amara's shoulders. But the little girl's eyes filled with tears, and she only shook her head. The tension at the table grew unbearable, the kind of silence that made everyone uneasy. Before she could ask again, Chikwidi's sharp voice broke through, louder than it needed to be. "She's just seeking attention," he said harshly. "Children say all sorts of things." His words sounded rushed, almost desperate, and the way his jaw tightened made the relatives exchange worried glances. His defensiveness only raised more questions. Neoma looked at him, feeling something shift inside her. Later, when the room had calmed slightly, she took Amara aside, away from the crowd. She stroked her daughter's hair and whispered softly, "You can tell me anything. You are safe." Amara hesitated, her small hands trembling as she clutched her mother's dress. Then in a broken whisper she spoke of Uncle Emeka, and a secret game he made her play, one he told her never to tell anyone about. The words crushed Neoma's heart, leaving her dizzy with shock. She returned to the table, her face pale but her voice filled with fire. "Emeka," she said firmly, demanding an answer. He tried to laugh, shaking his head, but before he could continue, Amara spoke up with her innocent truth. Every word from her lips made the room explode with gasps and shouts. Some family members begged Neoma to stop, insisting she was embarrassing everyone, but others rose in anger, saying the child must be protected no matter what. Holding her daughter close, Neoma refused to let anyone silence her. The betrayal cut deepest when Chikwudi stood up, siding with his brother. accusing her of destroying their family's honor. Her heart broke, but her strength rose higher. With Amara in her arms, she walked away from the noise, her mind made up to fight for her child at any cost. Neoma panics, her heart pounding as she quickly kneels beside her little girl. She holds Amara's small hands and looks into her tearful eyes, whispering softly, "My baby, what do you mean? Tell Mummy." Her voice shakes with fear, and everyone at the table leans in, waiting for an answer. Amara bites her lip, her tiny shoulders trembling, and tears begin to roll down her cheeks. She glances at the faces staring at her, then hides her face against her mother's chest, unable to speak. The room is filled with heavy silence, so sharp it feels like the air has been stolen away. Relatives exchange uneasy glances, unsure of what to say or do. The laughter from moments before has completely disappeared, replaced by a thick cloud of tension. Even the clinking of cutlery has stopped. No one dares to move. Neoma strokes Amara's back gently, whispering again and again, trying to comfort her while praying in her heart that it is nothing serious. But the way Amara trembles makes her more afraid by the second. Chukwudi suddenly clears his throat and speaks too loudly, trying to break the silence. He says, "She is only looking for attention. You know how children make up stories." His voice sounds strained, his eyes darting nervously across the table. The sudden harshness in his tone only makes the relatives more suspicious. Some glance at him with confusion, while others lower their eyes, unwilling to get involved. Neoma feels the weight of the entire room pressing down on her. She hugs Amara tighter, whispering, "You can tell me later, my love. Mummy will listen." Amara looks up briefly, her cheeks wet, but she shakes her head and clings even harder to her mother. The child's silence feels louder than any scream, and Neoma knows something is terribly wrong. The guests sit frozen, unsure whether to speak or stay quiet. Some look at Chukwudi, who is trying to mask his unease, while others watch Neoma, whose face is pale but determined. Inside, her fear is turning into a storm of questions. She knows her daughter is holding back something painful, and she vows in that moment not to rest until she uncovers the truth. The dinner that was supposed to be joyful has now turned into a night filled with suspicion, fear, and unbearable silence. She's just seeking attention. "Kids talk nonsense," Chukwudi snapped, his voice cutting sharply through the heavy silence. His words sounded too quick, too harsh, as if he wanted to bury the subject before anyone could think further. The tone in his voice made everyone shift uncomfortably in their seats. Instead of calming the moment, his sudden outburst pulled more eyes toward him. Relatives glanced at one another, some frowning, some whispering silently with their expressions, wondering why he reacted with such anger to his own daughter's words. Neoma looked at her husband in shock, her heart sinking. She expected him to comfort Amara, to kneel beside her like she did, but instead he brushed it aside with irritation. His face was tense, his jaw tight, his hands gripping his fork as though he needed to hold on to something. For the first time, his respected image seemed to crack in front of the very family who admired him most. Amara sniffled softly, her little hand clutching her mother's arm. The girl's innocent tears made the silence feel heavier, but Chukwudi only avoided looking at her. He tried to keep eating, moving food around his plate, but no one else lifted a fork. The mood of the dinner had completely changed. A few relatives exchanged glances filled with doubt, their eyes narrowing at his defensive tone. His quick dismissal of such a serious statement only fueled suspicion, as though he was more afraid of the questions than of the pain in his child's trembling voice. Neoma's chest tightened. She could feel her relatives watching, weighing every reaction. Some wanted to speak, others stayed quiet, but all of them were unsettled. She turned back to her daughter, ignoring her husband's cold words, and whispered gently, "It's okay, my love, you can tell me." The tenderness in her voice contrasted sharply with Chukwudi's harshness, making the difference between them impossible to miss. Inside, Neoma felt confusion mixing with fear. Why would a father react with anger instead of care? The unease in the room grew with every second of silence, and though no one said it aloud, suspicion had already been planted. The moment that was supposed to be a joyful dinner now carried a dark shadow. Chukwudi's nervous reaction had only deepened the mystery, leaving everyone on edge and waiting for the truth that Neoma knew she had to uncover. Neoma gently asks Amara again in private, away from the eyes and ears of everyone at the table. She leads her daughter into a quiet room, kneels down, and wipes away her tears. Her voice is soft, almost pleading as she whispers, "My baby, you can tell me anything. You are safe with me. No one will hurt you here." Amara hesitates, her small hands twisting nervously, her lips trembling as she struggles to speak. Her eyes, wide and wet with tears, search her mother's face for comfort. Neoma strokes her hair, promising again and again that she will protect her no matter what. Slowly, with a shaky breath, Amara leans closer and whispers words that make Neoma's body stiffen. Her voice is so small it can barely be heard, but every syllable feels like thunder crashing inside her mother's chest. She says, "Uncle Emeka told me to play a secret game. He said I must not tell anyone, not even you." The world around Neoma seems to spin as those words sink in. Her stomach twists, her knees weaken, and her hands freeze midair. She stares at her daughter, unable to believe what she just heard. The trusted younger brother of her husband, the uncle who smiled at family gatherings, had been hiding a darkness that now threatened her little girl. Neoma feels the ground shift beneath her, as if the entire world has betrayed her. Amara continues softly, almost whispering out of guilt, as if she had done something wrong. She says he told her it was their special secret, and that if she told, people would be angry with her. Hearing this crushes Neoma even more, filling her with both sorrow and rage. She hugs Amara tightly, whispering, "You are not wrong, my love. You did nothing wrong. I am proud of you for telling me." She kisses her daughter's forehead, holding her as though she could shield her from every evil in the world. Tears fill Neoma's eyes, but behind them burns a fire of anger she has never felt before. Her heart races with a mix of pain and determination. She knows she cannot stay silent, not for family pride, not for appearances. She wipes her tears, straightens her back, and holds Amara firmly. At that moment, she makes a silent vow that nothing will stop her from protecting her child, no matter who stands in her way. Neoma storms back to the table, her face pale but her eyes burning with rage. The room grows tense as she slams her hand on the table, her voice shaking with fury as she demands answers. "Emeka," she cries, pointing directly at him. "What have you done to my child?" Everyone turns in shock, staring at her, then at the younger brother who suddenly shifts uncomfortably in his seat. He tries to force a smile, raising his hands as though nothing serious has happened. "She's just confused," he stammers, his words unsteady. "Children make up stories all the time." But before he can continue, Amara clings to her mother's hand and speaks in her small, innocent voice, her words trembling but clear enough for all to hear. "He told me to keep a secret game," she says, tears running down her cheeks. The entire table gasps at once, the sound echoing like thunder through the dining room. Relatives cover their mouths, eyes wide, while others push back their chairs in disbelief. The truth has been spoken, and no one can ignore it now. Emeka's face flushes red as he shakes his head wildly. "She's lying," he shouts, but his panic only makes things worse. The relatives erupt in chaos, some yelling at him, others trying to silence Neoma, begging her to stop for the sake of family honor. The room that once held warmth and laughter now feels like a battlefield, with voices clashing and emotions spilling over. Neoma pulls her daughter closer, shielding her from the noise. Her heart breaks seeing Amara's tears, but her courage only grows stronger. She looks directly at Emeka, her voice steady despite the storm around her. "You will not silence her. You will not silence me." Her words slice through the chaos, leaving the room in stunned silence once again. Some relatives try to hush her, saying she is shaming the family on such an important night. But others rise to her defense, shouting that protecting a child is more important than saving face. Chairs scrape, voices clash, and the family splits into two sides. Neoma, however, no longer cares about their arguments. She holds Amara tightly, her eyes never leaving Emeka, and she knows this battle is only beginning. The Thanksgiving table has become a stage for truth, and there is no turning back. Half of the relatives try to silence Neoma, begging her to sit down, insisting she is embarrassing everyone on such an important day. Their voices rise, pleading with her to think of family honor, to stop shouting, to keep the matter quiet. One uncle shakes his head, saying this is not the place to discuss such things, while an older aunt scolds her for creating a scene. The room buzzes with their desperate attempts to shut her down, their fear of shame greater than their concern for the little girl clinging to her mother's side. But not everyone agrees. On the other side of the table, Voices rise in defense of Neoma. A cousin slams her hand on the table, declaring that protecting a child is more important than saving face. Another relative, trembling with anger, points at Emeka, demanding that the truth must come out no matter how painful it is. The clash grows louder, the family splitting apart right before everyone's eyes. Neoma stands in the middle of the storm, holding Amara tightly against her chest. She looks around, her heart aching as she sees those who should have stood by her now turning their backs. The weight of betrayal presses heavily on her shoulders, but the sight of her frightened daughter gives her strength. She cannot be silent, not now, not ever. The arguments grow fiercer. Some cry that the family name will be ruined if outsiders ever hear of this. Others shout back that silence will destroy them even more, because truth cannot be hidden forever. Fingers point, voices shake, and the warm Thanksgiving dinner has become a battlefield of loyalty, pride, and justice. Through it all, Neoma refuses to lower her head. She holds Amara close, whispering promises of safety, while her eyes burn with determination. The relatives who support her gather near, forming a small wall of protection around her and the child. Those who oppose glare, their faces twisted with anger and fear. The room is divided, lines drawn between tradition and truth, between pride and love. And in that moment, Neoma realizes she cannot rely on the family to protect her daughter. Some will always choose silence, but she chooses her child. The divide may have torn the family apart, but it also gave her clarity. Her duty is to Amara, no matter the cost. Neoma grabs her daughter, determined to protect her, pulling Amara close to her chest as if shielding her from the world. Her arms tighten around the trembling child, and her eyes scan the room filled with shouting voices and judgmental stares. She feels the heat of anger and fear pressing against her, but her resolve grows stronger. Her daughter's safety is all that matters, and nothing will shake that. Then, like a knife to her heart, Chukwudi's voice rises above the chaos. Instead of standing beside his wife, he slams his fist on the table and shouts, "You are destroying this family's name." The words crash into Neoma like thunder. For a moment, she cannot breathe. She stares at him in disbelief, unable to accept that the man she trusted, the man everyone admired, would choose his brother over his child. Gasps ripple through the relatives as they hear his words. Some lower their eyes in shame. Others look away, unwilling to witness the betrayal. But Neoma feels the weight of it cut deeper than any wound. She had expected resistance, she had expected denial, but not this. Not from the father of her child. Her heart aches, but her strength rises even higher. Tears stream down Amara's face as she buries her head in her mother's shoulder, scared and confused by the anger around her. Neoma strokes her daughter's hair, whispering softly that everything will be all right, even though her own chest is breaking. She knows this is the moment that changes everything. Trust is gone, love is shattered, and the man who should have defended them has revealed his true loyalty. The relatives continue arguing, some defending Chukwudi, others calling him blind. The room feels suffocating, the walls closing in with every word. But Neoma no longer listens to their noise. Her focus is on Amara, her heart beating with only one purpose: to protect her child from any more pain. She takes a deep breath, straightens her back, and looks at Chukwudi one last time. His anger cannot touch her anymore. His betrayal has set her free. Without another word, she turns and begins walking out, her daughter in her arms. The room falls into stunned silence as they watch her leave, realizing that this mother's strength is greater than all their attempts to silence her. Neoma takes Amara and walks out, swearing never to let anyone silence her again. Her footsteps are heavy but steady, each one carrying the weight of her pain and the strength of her decision. Behind her, voices call out, some begging her to stop, others blaming her for tearing the family apart. But she does not turn back. She holds her daughter tightly, whispering softly that she will never let anyone hurt her again. The night air feels cold as she steps outside, but for the first time, she feels the fire of courage burning inside her chest. The days that follow are not easy. Relatives pressure her to stay quiet. Neighbors whisper, and Chukwudi refuses to admit the truth, blaming her for everything. But Neoma refuses to bend. She reaches out to her cousin Ifeananya, a strong-willed lawyer who listens carefully to her story. With compassion and determination, Ifeananya promises to help her fight, no matter how difficult the battle will be. For Neoma, it is no longer about family pride. It is about justice for her daughter. Filing charges brings endless challenges. There are questions, investigations, and attempts from relatives to cover up the truth. Some family members accuse her of lying. Others beg her to forgive and forget. But Neoma stands firm. Appearing in court with her cousin by her side, her daughter's small hand always held tightly in hers. Each step into the courtroom feels like walking into a storm, but she carries herself with strength, refusing to be broken. Amara, though young, begins to smile again slowly, comforted by her mother's protection. Neoma's heart aches every time she remembers her little girl's trembling words, but that pain fuels her courage. She tells herself every day that her daughter will grow up knowing her mother chose bravery over silence. The legal fight drags on, but finally, progress is made. Evidence mounts, and voices that once tried to silence her are forced to face the truth. Neoma's decision has turned whispers into a wave of support, with some relatives finally standing with her. Through sleepless nights, tears, and endless hearings, she never lets go of Amara's hand. Though exhausted, she knows she has found her power. She is no longer just a wife or daughter-in-law trying to please others. She is a mother, fierce and unshakable, ready to fight for justice until the very end. Months later, Emeka is sentenced, and the whole community watches as justice is finally served. The courtroom is filled with whispers, gasps, and the heavy silence of shame that no one can ignore. For so long, Emeka acted untouchable, believing no one would dare speak against him. But now the law has spoken louder than his arrogance. The chains on his wrists symbolize not only his punishment, but also the freedom Amara and Neoma now hold in their hearts. It is the closing of a dark chapter that once seemed impossible to escape. Chikwudi, who once shouted against his own wife, stands in the shadows of disgrace. His reputation is torn apart, his family name stained by his choice to protect his brother instead of his own daughter. In desperation, he reaches out to Neoma, begging her to take him back. His voice trembles, his eyes heavy with regret. But the wounds of betrayal are too deep to be healed by simple apologies. For Neoma, his pleas are nothing more than echoes of a past she no longer wishes to live in. She remembers every insult, every time he silenced her, every moment he chose family pride over their child's safety. At another family gathering, 1 year after that unforgettable Thanksgiving, the tables have turned. Neoma walks in with Amara by her side, both of them shining with strength and peace. Her cousin Ifeanyi, who fought with her in court, beams with pride as relatives who once tried to silence her now watch in admiration. Amara's laughter fills the room, her innocence finally restored, her eyes no longer dimmed by fear. The whispers of doubt have shifted into murmurs of respect, and even those who once turned away now clap for her courage. As the room grows quiet, Neoma stands tall, her voice clear and steady. She looks around at the faces that once judged her, and then she speaks the words that cut through the air like fire. "I will never apologize for protecting my child." The words hit hard, heavy, and true. Suddenly, the room bursts into applause. Hands clap, voices cheer, and tears fall from those who finally understand her sacrifice. It is not just victory for Neoma. It is victory for every mother who has ever been told to stay silent. She stands strong, no longer broken, her child safe, and her story a living proof that courage can rewrite destiny. Hi, love sparkling heart, thank you for staying till the end. Glowing star, don't forget to like, thumbs up, drop a comment, speech balloon, and hit that subscribe button bell, so you never miss a story. See you in the next one. Waving hand sparkles.